on this. Sometimes confidence is real, and sometimes you're just holding it all together. And if you've ever walked into a room, showed up to a job, or made a decision where you looked confident, but inside you were questioning everything, this episode is for you. Welcome back to Sip on This, the show where we talk love, life, careers, and building confidence. If this is your first time joining me, then welcome. I am your host, Deirdre Haggerty. I'm an ICF certified coach and the founder of Coaching with Miss D, which offers life, relationship, and career coaching to help you align your values and vision for life. I am so excited you're joining me today to have a conversation, coffee or tea in hand, as we chat about life, careers, relationships, and all the little things that can shape who we are. I won't lecture you or tell you what to do. It's just the two of us in a coffee shop chatting about topics that make us laugh or drive us nuts, like people who just tell you, oh, just be confident, like it's that easy. So I saw a LinkedIn post / meme touting that a confident mindset yields success or something like that. I don't remember the exact quote. But I commented, confidence matters. However, not everyone starts there. A lot of people build self-belief after life knocks it out of them through action, not mindset alone. The real difference is doing it anyway, often when you're not fully confident yet. That's how I rebuilt it in my second act. Although I'd like to think I was always a confident person, at some point I started to lose it. So, somebody else responded to my comment. And her idea was that confidence attached to process is more sustainable than confidence attached to outcomes. Honestly, I agree with that. Because confidence built only on outcomes is fragile. If your identity depends on always winning, succeeding, or getting the exact result you wanted, life will eventually humble you. But where I saw the deeper conversation was this. Process still requires action. You can't just go through the process thinking you're confident. You cannot build confidence in a process that you refuse to step into. It's work. You can't just say it. And at some point you have to move before certainty arrives. And then I also started thinking about the definition of success itself, because that is such a deeply personal thing for each individual. Some people define success as achievement, some define it as peace, some as survival, and some define it as having the courage to start over. In my opinion, to even start to act confident is a very brave thing to do. And for me, failure has never meant the end. Failure is information. It's adjustment. It's part of learning. It doesn't make you brittle. It doesn't make me brittle. It teaches me to look for another way. I'm not quitting, but failure is giving me knowledge. And that knowledge is where confidence becomes something deeper than just optimism. It becomes experience. It becomes resilience. And not because you believe life will always cooperate, because it won't, but because you trust yourself enough to adapt when it doesn't. So for context, her comment, this is what she stated. Deirdre, intense self-belief is the right foundation, and it's most durable when it's attached to process rather than outcome, as I mentioned earlier. The person who believes they can solve any problem is resilient when solutions take longer than expected. The person who believes they will always succeed is brittle when they don't. The distinction matters because one survives contact with reality and one requires reality to cooperate. Confidence in your approach outlasts confidence in your outcomes every time. To her point, the person who believes they can solve any problem is resilient when solutions take longer than expected. And it got me thinking, hence this episode and what will be subsequent writings, a blog post, Substack, probably an article on LinkedIn. Because as it appeared, I had been reading this book, Gotta put my readers on. The name of the book is Think Again by Adam Grant, The Power of Knowing What You Don't Know. And it's about dissecting how we think. It's about how to think like a scientist. So much more than that, but I don't want to go into a whole book review. But I highly recommend it. He talks about agreeing and disagreeing, and how when we listen to people we don't always agree with, we really can learn so much more. And so I both agreed and disagreed with her. And her words made me think further about the topic. So, like I said, I was reading this book at the time, and I returned to page 254. And it's near the end of the book, entitled Actions for Impact, because it isn't about solving any problem, but rather having confidence in your ability to learn. And there's about 3 pieces underneath the subsection, Calibrate Your Confidence. And this is harness the benefit of doubt. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I'm just going to read this little section. When you find yourself doubting your ability, reframe the situation as an opportunity for growth. You can have confidence in your capacity to learn while questioning your current solution to a problem. Knowing what you don't know is when the first step toward developing is often the first step toward developing expertise. Maybe it's time to get a stronger pair. So I really, this book will be in the show notes. I suggest, getting it. It's pretty inexpensive on Amazon. I very much recommend it. Back to her point, though. In my work, I have seen women, and men too, but mostly women, who have had their self-confidence and self-belief shattered from surviving verbal and physical abuse, living with a narcissist, picking up pieces after a brutal divorce, and self-doubt embedded within them from childhood destroyed them as adults, and incapacitates them to believe in themselves to do things that they know they can do, but those thoughts are just penetrating their brain. These women, they need to build self-belief, self-love, self-confidence, one piece at a time, to lay a solid foundation. You don't just get that foundation. Confidence is a mindset that must be developed. So let's talk about definitions, okay? Confidence is defined as a feeling of self-assurance arising from one's appreciation of one's own abilities or qualities. She's brimming with confidence after her TED Talk. He would walk up those steps with a confidence he didn't feel. He might look it, but he didn't feel it inside. So then there's self-confidence. That's the belief in oneself and one's powers or abilities, often developed through experience. But again, what happens when that experience has been diminished, destroyed, dismantled, shattered? Let's discuss the lie about confidence. We hear it all the time. Just believe in yourself. Be confident. Think like a problem solver. Sure, okay, yeah, great. And yeah, confidence matters. But here's what I want to challenge you with today. Confidence is not where most people start, especially not in a second act or after those things that I mentioned, or after burnout, a toxic work environment, a relationship that chipped away at you, or a life transition that shook your identity. Because when confidence has been knocked out of you, you don't just wake up and believe again. You don't just say, oh, okay, this shit happened tomorrow, I'm going to be confident. Nah, it doesn't work like that. Me personally, people always would ask me, oh, where do you get that confidence from? Honestly, I didn't know because I didn't feel it inside. I've walked into rooms where I looked completely confident. And I knew I was holding it together by a thread. I've had students tell me my presence when I entered a room, whether it was to teach or to have a meeting with the entire school, that I commanded that room. But what they didn't see is what it took for me to get in that room. That's the disconnect we need to talk about, because sometimes you have it and sometimes you don't. Sometimes you look like you do, and inside you're like, how can I believe it? And here's the truth no one says. Sometimes you have the confidence, sometimes you don't, and sometimes you pretend you do. And I don't mean fake it in a superficial way. I wasn't faking it. I had to get something from somewhere to walk in those rooms, right? I mean, you show up before you feel ready. You speak before you feel certain. You move before you fully believe. It's not fraud, it's rebuilding. It's the process, the small actions. So, how can we rebuild confidence during coaching? Or how can we even build confidence during coaching if you feel like you've never had that? And let's make this practical. This question was recently asked of a client. How do you build confidence? And it was wild to me that she lacked confidence. And this was something we worked through her session, because she has a great business. And she wasn't confident in taking this business to the next level. As I said earlier, confidence is more than mindset. It's not a mindset exercise. It's a behavioral pattern, a process that begins with action. So here's how we rebuild it, one step at a time. Let's stop waiting to feel confident. It's not going to pop in. This is the biggest block. You can't expect it to just be like, oops, there it is. You might be wearing something today that makes you feel great, but are you confident? Maybe you think that's going to make you confident. Maybe it will. But you can't wait for it to just appear. It's not going to happen. If you're waiting to feel ready, certain, or confident, you're going to stay stuck. Confidence is the result. It's not a prerequisite. Action comes first. So the next step, you're going to take controlled, uncomfortable action, not massive leaps. You're going to get the energy to walk into that room full of 100 students and say what you have to say. You're not going to make life-altering decisions. You're going to have controlled discomfort. And those life-altering decisions are not going to happen overnight. So what are some examples I'm speaking of? Maybe you're afraid to speak up in a meeting. So maybe you just take this one move. You speak up one time in a meeting. You apply for a role you're not 100% sure about. You set one boundary. And it's not about telling the person. It's about you refusing to answer your phone for business calls after a certain time. You don't answer your phone. You don't check that email after, say, 7 p.m. You just don't do it. Maybe it's setting positive affirmations and saying them to yourself over and over again until you believe it. You're not trying to prove anything. You're trying to create evidence. Step 3. You have to build self-trust, not ego confidence. It's not about the way you look. It's about how you feel, and how you feel wearing what you're wearing, and how you feel doing what you're doing. It's not about your ego. It's about trusting yourself. And this is where people get it wrong. Confidence that says, I always succeed, that's fragile. It might be a great mindset to have. It might help you just get to the next level, and that's okay. But you have to you have to turn that into self-trust. Self-trust says, I'll figure it out, even when it's hard. That's durable. That's the tenacity I spoke of. That's getting up when you get knocked down. That's not quitting. That's taking that failure and say, okay, why didn't it work? That's what you're building. Step 4, expect discomfort. This is key. If it feels uncomfortable, awkward, uncertain, good. That means you're doing something new. Confidence is built through that feeling, not after it disappears. Step 5, and this is one everybody skips, or a lot of people skip. Be vulnerable. You don't build real confidence without vulnerability, without admitting you don't have it all figured out, without risking being seen before you feel ready, allowing yourself to not be perfect. Confidence is not a mask. It's not something you perform. It's who you become when you stop hiding. The shift happens over time. Something changes. You stop asking, do I feel confident? And you start knowing, I've handled hard things before. I didn't want to do a podcast. Somebody suggested it. Okay. I was like, okay. I was confident enough to start this podcast. I didn't know what the outcomes would be. And I'm learning from my experience, and I'm applying all of that knowledge to drive success, whatever that success is going to be. Even if it's just getting somebody over to my website to book a coaching session. That's self-trust based on your experience. And that becomes real confidence. Not the loud kind, not the comments, not the likes, not the subscribers, not the followers, the kind no one can take from you. So, if you are in that space right now where confidence feels out of reach, where you're showing up anyway, where part of you feels like you're just holding it together, you are not behind. You are not broken. You're doing something incredibly real. You're rebuilding. And it doesn't start with confidence. It starts with one decision to move forward anyway. If this is where you are right now, in that in-between space, that is exactly the work I do with my clients. You don't have to figure it out alone. I'm here to help you. Please share this with somebody who might need this reminder today, who might need some help with their confidence. And please don't forget to like, subscribe, and visit coachingwithmissd.com for more resources. And don't forget, Mother's Day is right around the corner. If you believe a coach can help someone you love build that confidence, I have gift cards available on my website. Easy breezy, quick last-minute gift goes right to your inbox. Until next time, keep sipping. Take one step at a time to build that confidence. And remember to live your life as your authentic self, your version.